Hello, friends. I'm Stephanie Trummel, licensed esthetician, anti-aging specialist, and the founder of Belle Âme Esthetics in Magnolia, Texas. And welcome to the Beyond Beauty with Stephanie podcast. In today's episode, Creating an Entrepreneur, When Calling Meets Courage, I want to share a very personal story. How the Lord called me out of a dark season of doubt and fear and into the purpose He had prepared for me all along. This isn't just about becoming an entrepreneur. It's about how God met me at rock bottom, reminded me that my story wasn't over, and gave me a new mission, one rooted in healing, ministry, and courage. This is the story of a midlife mom in a dark season, discovering a passion for skincare and how it became a ministry for women, and how trusting the Lord turned her fears into courage. Let me take you back a few years. Empty nesting had begun, and I was going through the darkest season of my life. I had a lot of hurt stirring inside of me, and that made me really bitter. I had completely walked away from my faith. I was drowning in sin, mentally exhausted, emotionally wrecked. I felt like a failure. I had turned into someone I didn't even know. And worse, I honestly believed that my family would be better off without me. The suicidal thoughts weren't just passing, they were constant. I'd really hit the bottom. But even in that pit of despair, God never left me. I had turned my back on Him, and He stayed. He waited. He pursued. And when I was finally quiet enough to listen, I heard Him say to me, "This is not the end. I have plans for you, Stephanie." That whisper from God turned into a stirring in my soul I couldn't ignore. Go to beauty school, become an esthetician, build a place where women can heal. Now, that didn't make any sense to me. First of all, I had never had dreams of being an esthetician. I was never into skincare. Barely washed my face at night until like my early 40s. I had my first facial at 43 years old. Just wasn't something I was into. I didn't even know what an esthetician was, if I'm being completely honest. Kind of embarrassing to admit, but had you said to me 3 years prior to that, esthetician, I would have said, what is that? What is an esthetician? But I didn't feel worthy either. I didn't feel qualified. I'm 43 years old at this time. I was like, I'm going to go to school? I didn't feel like I had anything to offer. But God doesn't call us to understand. He calls us to obey. And so I did. Scared, unqualified, completely unsure of what I was doing, but I obeyed. And that's how Belle Âme Esthetics was born. Not just a skincare studio, but a ministry. A sacred place where women can show up exactly as they are and be met with love, grace, and hope. This journey didn't suddenly become easy just because I said yes to God. I knew I needed to step out of my comfort zone. I knew I needed to do big things. So I started searching for some networking groups. And when I first stepped into a Women's Council of Entrepreneurs networking event, I was terrified. I needed to get my name out there. I needed to grow my business and build connections. But that meant leaving the comfort zone of my bubble and walking into a room full of women who I was convinced had it all together. I remember walking in, I was shaking. I felt like a total fraud. I couldn't even form the words to talk about my business. I looked around and thought, these are real entrepreneurs. These women know what they're doing. I do not belong here. But God didn't ask me to feel ready. He asked me to be obedient. So I kept showing up. I prayed before every meeting, sometimes in my car, sometimes under my breath walking in, just asking God to give me the courage to keep going and to give me the words and to give me the wisdom. And you know what? Little by little, He did. That group became a turning point for me. WCE gave me a place to find community, encouragement, and friendships with other women who were also stepping out in faith. It helped me grow not just in my business, but in confidence, in boldness, and belief in the calling God had placed on my life. Now, I'm a local leader for the Magnolia chapter. Can you believe that? The same woman who walked in trembling is now helping other women step into the room. Not because I have it all together, because I know what obedience can do. I chose obedience over comfort, and God did the rest. Here's what I've learned through all of this. We doubt ourselves. We compare ourselves. We think it's too late because we're older. We think starting over in midlife is for someone else, but not for us. But hear me, friends. If God puts something in your heart in this season, it is not by accident. He's not teasing you. He's trusting you. This season, yes, even with the empty nest grief and the hormone chaos and the mental fog, it's not a setback. It's sacred and it's purposeful. I know how devastating it can feel to be an empty nester. I know how hormones can mess with your mind and make you question everything. I know how it feels to want to start over but think it's too late. It's not. God uses that dark season to prepare us for these things. He used my dark season to prepare me for this. And now I get to use my business and this podcast as a ministry. Not to be perfect, because we are not. Not to impress, but to connect, to heal, to remind other women they're not alone. And let me just say, starting this podcast was terrifying. I was way outside of my comfort zone. I didn't know the first thing about starting a podcast, so I had to learn all of that. I'm pretty tech savvy, so, I watched some videos, got it figured out. But still, just putting myself out there and being vulnerable and talking to the world, because who knows who's listening to this? I had to be very bold. I didn't have all the right equipment. Had to buy everything I needed. It was a lot of work. But I felt led to do it. And every time a listener messages me saying, I needed this today, or thank you so much for being vulnerable, it's helped me so much, you're such an inspiration, it's confirmation that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's not about me. I'm not here tooting my horn. It's about glorifying God and what He's done in my life and what He can do in your life. My business and this podcast has been a blessing, not just to me, but to the women who listen, who come through the doors at Belle Âme, and who are finally starting to believe they're not alone. I'm ready to grow. I'm excited to see what God has in store for Belle Âme Esthetics and for Beyond Beauty with Stephanie. I'm standing here as living proof that you can come back from the darkest places, that God's timing is perfect, and that when calling meets courage, beauty is born. And to the women listening right now who feel like little nudges, maybe it's been tugging at your heart for a while. Maybe it's to start a business, launch a podcast, or write a blog, lead a Bible study, or share your story with someone who needs to hear it. Whatever it is, don't ignore that stirring. That's not just a random thought or a feeling. That's the Lord planting something in your spirit. So pray about it. Bring it to Him every step of the way. But sis, don't sit on it forever waiting for the perfect time, because the enemy would love for you to believe you're not ready, you're not worthy, or you're not equipped. Here's the truth. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to say yes. Be bold, step out in faith, and amazing things will happen. I'm living proof of that. If you're local and you want to experience Belle Âme for yourself, you can book a service by visiting www.belleameesthetics.org. And if you have a story that you think would encourage or inspire other women, I want to hear it. Reach out to be a guest on a future episode. We're building something real here, something beautiful and something eternal. Thanks for listening, and remember, God's not done with you yet.